MegaPodTastic.
Good morning, Megapodlings. It's Crazy Joe, and I got a guest with me. It's Ketwolski from the Ketwolski channel. If you don't know it, if you're a Star Trek fan, it's a channel you should be subbed to, because let me tell you, and I'm sure we're going to get into this a little bit. When it comes to Star Trek on YouTube, there's a lot of negativity out there, and this guy's channel. And here's the funny thing about Skype: I never know which side you're on, so I want to point to you, but I don't know if in the composite you're going to be there or there. So
it's a mystery.
his channel is one of the bright shining lights of Star Trek on YouTube right now. So it's there you go. And if we could find 3 other guys who have very, very positive channels, we could say there are 4 lights.
There are 4 lights. That's right. That's true.
But yeah, no, everyone who loves Star Trek should be subscribed to Ketwolski. So I'll put links down below and go subscribe. So thank you for taking the time out to talk to us today. I appreciate it.
Well, first off, thank you for that sweet intro. I loved it. And thank you for having me on. I really like to kind of try to get out from behind the camera, so to speak, of just my own channel and get out there and engage with other people, because everyone's always got like a different audience. Sometimes there's a bit of overlap, but everyone's always got their own like audiences. And I like to get in front of, your camera, so to speak, and be able to talk to you and kind of pick your brain about Star Trek, and you can pick my brain, and kind of just keep the love going, keep the Trek community alive, and really kind of engage in how big it really is, because it is one of the largest, I think, fandoms on the planet, to be honest. And I really love talking to people about Star Trek. So thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely. And my channel is very much a pop culture channel.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk Star Trek, but that's not all we talk. But my viewers know that my 2 favorite things in the world are Star Trek and the Muppets. So incidentally, one of the greatest days of my life was in November of 2017. I got an invite to the set of Sesame Street.
Wow.
So I got to be there and see Muppets firsthand, and I thought, this is phenomenal. How does it get any better than this? Well, it did get better. Guess who else was visiting the set of Sesame Street that very day?
Ooh, who?
Will Wheaton.
Wow.
So I have a photo of Wesley Crusher and Grover and I together. So there you go.
So you were done at that point. You said, if a bus hits me tomorrow, I've done it. I've done everything I needed to do in life. This was the max right here. That's great, man. That's so cool. That's awesome.
So how long's your channel been going now?
Oh gosh, I would say probably closer to 4 or 5 years now. I started it many, many, many moons ago. And if you really dig through all my videos, you can find some of my very original ones, which were horrific. And it's really fun I leave them up there because I think it's fun for people to see where I'm at now with everything, not only just content wise, but production wise, and how it started as just garbage, and the kind of the evolution of the quality and stuff. I think that's inspiring for people to, when they're starting out to try to content create, to see like, how is he here and where did that start? Because it doesn't start with all this. You start at the bottom and then you work up, So, but it's been a number of years now that I've sure.
And your channel has been, I'd say Facebook has been very good to you, because as we mentioned, there's a lot of negativity on YouTube regarding Star Trek, and a lot of the Facebook groups I'm a member of, and I believe you're a member of them too. I don't ever see you post, but I've noticed that I'm
a straight up Facebook stalker, man. I never post anything. I shouldn't say that. I very rarely will jump into a conversation, but I usually don't post anything. Yeah, I'm a stalker though. I'm always reading.
But your videos often get thrown in there as and that's how I found you. So
okay.
So yeah. I guess how long have you been? Okay, here's the question. I guess all Star Trek fans. When I started out, I'm 44 years old. This was a question you didn't have to ask, because when I became a Star Trek fan, there was only one Star Trek. But now I guess the question you had to ask is, where did you start with Star Trek? Which series was your first?
So it's kind of a dual answer, right? My first series was The Next Generation, but I technically started with the original series because of the movies. So my dad brought me into Star Trek through, as a kid, he forced me to watch the motion picture, which as a child is just the best, really. But I did burn a hole through the VHS of The Voyage Home because I loved that one so much. So my break into Star Trek was the original TOS crew, but my very first series that I associate with is The Next Generation. That was my first series for sure.
It's kind of the same for me, because when I say, there was only one, I came to it through the movies as well. But I'd see I'd seen episodes of the original series, but I didn't. Next Generation was the first one that I was watching week by week by week.
Yeah.
So
Right.
But
for sure.
but now it's funny because now you see people who they're like, oh, don't ever start with the original, start with Next Generation. And it's fun. Everyone comes at it different. My friend Bill Smith from the Trek Geeks podcast always says every episode of Star Trek is somebody's first episode. So that's very
true. That is a very true. There's enough people on the planet and enough Trekkies and enough episodes of Star Trek for that. I think that is 100% true. Yes. Yeah.
So I'm very impressed with the way you have fought misinformation. I've tried to do it myself. And I don't think I've been successful. There's a video on my channel called Destroying the Myth of the Alternate License. And I tried to convey, and I used this little calendar here. I tried to convey that there's a story that Star Trek Discovery is shot under an alternate license, but here on this calendar we see Harry Kim, but in a few days we see Chancellor Laurel. Yes. I'm like, this is one piece of merchandise that has all the series represented. I said, how's that an alternate license? Fansets has a set of pins called the Women of Star Trek. We've got Uhura. We got 7 of 9. We've got Michael Burnham. How's there an alternate license? And you've just been much, much better at relaying the message than I have been, to which I tip my hat to you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think it's important if you're passionate about getting that message out there. I think whatever medium and however you want to go about doing it, I think is important, because even if you impact just one person and open their eyes up to reality, I think it's worth it, no matter how ways you do it. I do the best that I can, but even for myself, as many of the videos I've made and as much work I've put into it over time, there's still a lot of people that still get a lot of confusion about it. There's still a lot of questions out there because it's hard to disprove some of the things that are being stated, because I don't work for CBS. I'm not in their legal defense team, so I can't actually pull up court documents to prove what I'm saying. But it's a challenging thing to do, but I felt like I needed to do it because there was this point in time, I want to say it was around 2018. It was right after Discovery season 1 was about to end, or had ended, and we were heading into the second season. And there was just this flurry of videos on YouTube of just all of this weird stuff, like beyond just the alternate license stuff. There was all of this weird conspiracy theory stuff going on, and I finally just had enough of it. And what I experienced when I did my very first one, which I didn't put too much effort into, it was just kind of like, this 25% license thing, this alternate license thing is stupid, because the point that this is dumb and this is why. I didn't really put too much thought into it because I didn't think a lot of people were going to really pick up on it. But what came out of that was so many people were like, finally, thanks somebody has said something, because all of these people had been thinking the same thing, but nobody was saying anything about it. And so people just kind of rallied around that initial video, and have kind of just kept the fight going periodically ever since. I used to be a little bit more active in it. Now I kind of have to pick and choose my battles, because I don't want to just become a response channel,
Exactly.
But I do try to pick and choose my battles with the situation. But I mean, it just needed to happen. It really did. It was just a bunch of crap out there. And, and I've always said this, with the alternate license thing, is there a possibility that it exists? Maybe. I don't know. But all of the evidence that has been brought up to this point is just all garbage and is easily disproven. So until CBS opens up the court documents and shows us. We never know 100%, but nothing says that it's actually happening, which for some people, then that means, well, then it must be happening. But yeah,
I've always said I don't know that it's true, but I could believe the alternate license as far as the movies goes. The Kelvin
yeah,
movies, I can believe it there. That makes a certain level of sense. But when you try to tie the TV series into it, when we know full well that CBS always retained all the TV rights,
correct.
then it doesn't make a lick of sense. Why would the TV arm who owns the thing go
Right.
and give it to someone else and say, here, you do it with this other, like,
Yeah.
like you said, conspiracy theory, it doesn't.
It doesn't add up. It
Yeah.
doesn't add up at all. The way it was publicly available, that stuff is publicly available, how they split when Viacom split back in 2006, I think it was, but it doesn't matter. That stuff was publicly available, so we could see where the rights kind of landed. And right, like all of that stuff retained with CBS. And it makes sense that CBS would say you have to change everything because at that time, as has been pointed out, a lot of the merchandising from the original series was still very popular and making them a lot of money each year. So they didn't want anything to impact that. They didn't want it to be too similar. It could be close, but they didn't want anything to kind of overlap. They wanted to be able to sell both things simultaneously without any kind of crossover or damage to anybody's brands. So that makes a lot of sense. But then they tried to do it in the reverse way with the movies going, and it's just it's a disaster. The whole thing is a disaster. But yeah, anyways, it doesn't exist. It's ridiculous.
So the big question I wanted to ask you, and I got to tell you, I have viewers of my channel.
Mm-hmm.
A good friend of mine who I've known for many, many years is actually, he's not a fan at all. I love Discovery.
Okay. Yeah.
I love all the show. There's only one Star Trek show I don't really care for, and it's Voyager.
Interesting.
I've
Okay.
never
Yeah.
cared for Voyager. Voyager's still my least favorite Star Trek. I've
Yeah.
grown to appreciate it more over the years, but it's still my least favorite.
Yeah.
But I have at least one friend who I love the guy dearly. He's one of my regular viewers. He hates the new shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, I can respect that. I got no issues, Pete. You like what you like.
Right.
That's fine. My issues are not with people disliking something that I like. I respect all opinions because, hey, I don't like Voyager.
Which
So
is to some people that would be, just sacrilege. But yeah, right. I understand what you're saying though. Right.
So my thing is like, it's just, you can't, and I'm not saying he does this, but my issue is that people are trying to alter reality to fit their narrative. The example I always give is, I hate The Big Bang Theory. I despise The Big Bang Theory. I think it's one of the worst shows in television history. But I would be demented if I tried to sit here and tell you that show wasn't a hit.
Right. Right.
And we've got these shows that are very expensive, and they keep getting renewed and renewed and renewed. Fourth season of Discovery. We got a second season of Picard coming, and it's just not, let's go to old Spock and the Vulcans here. It's just not logical to believe that these shows are not hits because you do not renew expensive failures.
So the way that the argument is presented is this: there's only two schools of thought, which is, on one hand, the shows are actually successful and they are making the studio money and they want to continue to make more of them because they are making money and people like them. That's one hand. On the other hand, Viacom CBS, a multinational billion-dollar corporation, has decided to bankrupt itself to make more Star Trek shows because a couple of YouTubers said some mean things about them. So which one is the reality? But that's the argument, right? That's the way that it's portrayed. It's like, it couldn't be that the show is successful. No.
Right.
No way. No, they're doing it just to be spiteful. They're doing it. They just want to lose money. If CBS wants to just keep throwing money away, that's fine. Yeah, that's what studios are really big on. They love burning their cash for no reason. And the thing is like you said, like, some people just get this warped sense of reality where they can't rationalize the most simplest answer, which is that the shows are successful and that they are making money. And instead of just accepting that as the simplest answer, it's got to be this grandiose giant conspiracy thing, and it's got to be all of this stuff, and I think it's part of it is just because of the science fiction fandom likes a good story, right? And it's all of these betrayals, and it's Kurtzman versus whatever person this week, versus Redstone, Kurtzman versus McMahon, Kurtzman versus Kurtzman versus a television, where he punches a hole in it, and it's always like all of these weird plots of like it's Game of Thrones down there at Secret Hideout. And I saw a rumor the other day where they were like, oh yeah, I heard from a guy at CBS that Kurtzman packed up his office, then left, and then later on in the day came back and unpacked it. And it's like, no, he didn't. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that didn't. And it's just people believe it because the reality is worse. They don't want to accept the reality, which is number one, that they've been wrong every step of the way. And number two is that the shows are actually successful. And I think that would kind of shatter some of their mentalities of like, some of it is like they feel like they're falling on a sword in some regards, like they're doing the noble thing by hating the new Star Trek and just wanting to go back to the way the old stuff is. And they can't rationalize the idea, like you just said, it's okay to like some of the stuff and hate other things. That's okay. I remember when Enterprise came out, a lot of people hated Star Trek Enterprise. It didn't suddenly also make me hate everything else about Star Trek, even if I didn't like that. It had nothing to do with that. It was just maybe I don't like this one show that doesn't impact everything. And it didn't stop me from watching more of the stuff. I didn't stop going to see the Next Generation movies because the Enterprise show was a little weird. You know what I mean? Like it's this weird mentality I think people have now. And I wish people would kind of shake out of it. There's so much Star Trek available. You've got Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, Section 31, Star Trek Prodigy. There's all of these shows available. Find one that you like and just watch that one. They're all so different, So it's, I don't know. People just kind of just want to hate it.
That's what I love. It's like there's something for everyone now. Like they've really covered their bases. Like, I mean, we got a Starship-based show with Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
We got with Picard something completely different. And I understand how Picard wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, because we've never had a Star Trek series before where not a single main character is a Starfleet officer.
Correct.
I mean, we've had civilians before, but Picard, it's like this is something completely different. So, okay, maybe that's not to your taste, but you got Discovery over there, which is more traditional Star Trek. And now we got Strange New Worlds coming, which is not only more traditional starship-based Star Trek, but it's going back to the episodic single stories, which personally I prefer serialized, but I'm thrilled they're doing that because, again, something for everyone.
Something for everybody. Exactly. That's what, I have legitimate creative disagreements with some of the decisions that Alex Kurtzman has made. Just because, I mean, we're people and not everybody agrees with everything everybody does. But what I will never fault this individual for doing is giving us more Star Trek than we've ever had. And just blowing this universe to a whole new expansive level that we've never seen before at this point. Like, we're going to have all of these shows and covering all of these different eras, and they're also different. And I love the content that's being made now, and over the next probably 5 years, at least that's what's on the books, is going to be available for the next, like, we're going to be talking about this stuff in the next 10 years and the 20 years after that. Like, this is just, we're making history right now that when people are fighting over whether or not the Klingons' heads are not the right size. And it's like, that's not really like, it's just, it's crazy to me that people get hemmed up on some of that stuff. Yeah. But I'm very excited about it.
Me too. What would you like to see happen? What has not been announced for Star Trek that would just get you super amped up?
Two things I would say. I would like to see more Deep Space Nine characters kind of make a bit of an appearance. I feel like they've been somewhat sidelined. They've been working, I mean, obviously TNG is getting a lot of focus, And so is TOS. DS9 is still kind of out the skirts. Voyager's been getting in, and obviously, Kate Mulgrew's coming back. So Voyager's really getting pulled back in. DS9's kind of the next one they've really got to start to pull a little bit more on. So I'd like to see some of that. And something else that I would really like to see is I would like to see some cross-pollination between the series and the films. I want to see that because I know the monster universe existed and that shared universe, but in my personal, probably very biased opinion, Star Trek was the original cinematic universe. And I feel like it's time to reclaim some of that title, and I'd love to see some cross-pollination between the shows and the films and kind of building up a shared universe that kind of puts everything together, both on the big screen, whether that be just through streaming, but as a movie format, and on the small screen through streaming TV shows. I'd like to see that. That's what I'd like.
I second the Deep Space Nine, absolutely. One thing I'd love to see is the short treks. If we get more short treks, I'd love to see them revisit some of the old shows. Like, I'd love to see a short trek that brings back some DS9 characters, or like what's Garrick doing now, or a short trek about.
Yeah.
Or maybe we finally get resolution to the temporal Cold War in a short trek. How cool would that be? But I
don't know. That may be a Discovery Season 3 thing. I don't think they're done talking about the temporal Cold War. That's a personal opinion, but we'll get to that, I guess. We're still early in the season. We haven't even gotten to episode 3 yet, so.
As for cross-pollinating with the movies, my dream series, if we ever got this, would be I'd like to see John Cho do an Excelsior series as Prime Sulu, as because George Takei, if you're going to be setting it in the Star Trek 6 era, he's a little bit aged out of it, but
he is a little bit aged out of it. Maybe a cameo would be nice.
I wouldn't mind seeing John Cho play the young George Takei Prime Universe Sulu in a series, because I've heard people say, "Oh no, that's Kelvin. That's completely separate." It's like, yes, but genetically he's the same guy.
Right.
We saw the picture at the end of Star Trek Beyond. They're supposed to look like those guys. We the audience may look and go, "That's a different actor," but the characters on screen, Nimoy Spock in a cave looks at Chris Pine. He doesn't go, "That's a different guy." He goes, "Hey,
that's Captain Kirk." Right. He doesn't pretend like he's a different person. Right.
Exactly.
Which would be weird. Right. That's kind of goes along with that suspension of disbelief for films. I would like that. That would be fun. I always felt like the Kelvin stuff. I know that was a big thing back in 2009 when the original one came out, and that was kind of the start of the fracture of the franchise. In terms of the fans, I think, kind of like created a lot of stress fractures, I think, and then Discovery really blew it apart. But I immediately got it. I'm a diehard Trekkie through and through for my entire life and forever on. And like when I saw it, and I got it immediately. It didn't bother me at all. It didn't upset me. Like, it didn't make me go, "Well, what about blah?" Like, it didn't. Like, this is good. Like, this was a fun movie. It didn't have a whole lot of Star Trek stuff going on, but it was a fun movie. It was action-packed, got the point across, let's do this. And then it kind of went in weird different directions. And I say all that to say I always felt like the Kelvin universe deserved a little bit more than what it got. I think it had a rough start, even though it made a lot of money. And then Into Darkness was very divisive because they tried to do a Wrath of Khan thing, which they did not really earn. And then Beyond, which was arguably a better made film, didn't earn nearly as much money as they needed it to. And then they kind of canned the whole thing. And I felt like it needs more. And I think it'd be fun. Like, imagine what an Excelsior class Kelvin ship would look like, because everything's big, and the Excelsior is already so big. Imagine what it would look like in the Kelvin verse. That'd be fucking cool.
Well, I told you I've got issues with Voyager.
Yeah.
Another show I would love to see, a TV series. I would love to see a TV. If they came to me and said, "Joe, you can make any TV series. You're the showrunner. What show do you want to make?" My show, and I'm telling you, this is going to piss off a lot of people, but this is the show I'd make: Star Trek Voyager Kelvin. It would be the entire series of Star Trek Voyager rebooted in the Kelvin timeline. And I would, because here's my issue with Voyager. I think it's a great premise that they didn't live up to. And I would like to see them try it again. And let's really tell a story about a ship that's cut off from Starfleet and doesn't have the safety net. I kind of feel like in the course of 7 years, by year 7, that ship should be held together with duct tape. Like that
Yeah.
ship should be falling up. Now I understand the the expense of building new miniatures. That's why it always
Right,
struggled.
right,
But I
right.
get the
Yeah.
reality of it. But I always felt like there was a tremendous idea that they never. It really turned into another Next Generation show, and I kind of felt like it should have been really the dangerous Star Trek. It should have been the Star Trek where characters didn't survive, not just because uh
And then they brought them back immediately. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
or the Star Trek thing of a character like Tasha Yar or Jadzia Dax dies because of a contract issue, or
Right.
it's like
Or yeah, the actor wants to quit, so we're gonna get Dr. Pulaski out here, and then she wants to come back. Oh, just get rid of Dr. Pulaski. She was never
exact
here. Yeah.
like what imagine you're watching a Star Trek show where the captain, the first officer, and a couple of security guards that you don't know their names all beam down to a planet. And the only ones who make it back alive are the security guards. We've never seen that.
Yeah.
Your jaw
Yeah.
would be dropped. You'd be like, "What the heck just happened?" So,
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think that the premise there, to be, I would say for Voyager, there were episodes that did really turn up the heat, so to speak, on that desperation thing. But it also did, in some regards, have like a very soft reset sometimes, like they did in TNG. TNG was very soft reset from episode to episode, whereas Voyager, they tried to dumb it down a little bit. But right, like I don't think television at that time, I don't think the general audience was ready for that concept that you just described. I think they would be now, especially after shows like Game of Thrones, or even like Breaking Bad, where main characters or very strong supporting characters dying off and being permanently dead is like a thing now that people are used to seeing and they actually like to see because it makes things more believable. I think would be a good thing, good idea for a Star Trek show. I mean, even Discovery, for what it has done, has killed off a couple of characters, but right, like the main team, like they're fine. Like
yeah.
Burnham's not dying, Saru's not dying. Like these people, like Tilly's not dying, Stamets isn't dying. Like these people aren't dying. And even when they offed Culber, they brought him back, which I'm glad for because I like Wilson Cruz. I think he's a great actor. But right, it kind of diminished that in some regards. It's like we did this whole thing and now they kind of undid it, and now they're talking about bringing back Lorca as Prime Lorca, so it's kind of undoing that a little bit. So it's like, it's like you got to kind of commit a little bit to it, and I think that'd be great. Kind of a bit more of a punchier Voyager series where maybe duct tape is keeping it together, or maybe they've had to add like a alien ship parts to kind of kit bash it to keep it going. Like imagine what it would look like when it came back and they'd be like, what the hell is that? And like, that's what brought us home. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I think that'd be
I would
fun.
say, what if they lost the ship altogether? What if the
Or
ship
yeah,
blew
blew
up
up,
and
right?
they were
Yeah.
stranded and they had to, that was part of, there was maybe a quest one season. We got to find a ship. We have to
Yeah.
secure a ship. I don't know. That makes but I know Voyager, I acknowledge my opinion's the minority opinion. People love that show. So I'm sure that would just make people's heads explode and they'd be like, I hate you. I hate what you did to Voyager. But my answer would be, hey, your Voyager's fine. Your Voyager's in the Prime universe. It's untouched. It's pristine. I haven't done anything to it.
They'd still hate it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but hey, what are you gonna do? So,
Yeah.
and here's the good news: CBS isn't calling me anytime. So this is
Well, they're not calling me either. So, because I have my own ideas, my own scripts, Yeah, they're not calling me either. They don't want to hear our opinions on that kind of stuff.
Well, I've had you for about a half hour now. I don't want to hold you up any longer. I want to thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
Channel is fantastic. I got a link down below. I highly recommend anyone who loves Star Trek, please check out his channel. Give him a subscribe. You definitely should. I'm going to say it. It's the best Star Trek channel on YouTube.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your kind words. And thank you very much for having me on and for the great discussion. I love kind of talking shop about Star Trek, even if we're just theorizing ideas and spitballing stuff. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. I love talking Star Trek, and in my daily life, there's not many people I could talk Star Trek with because my wife is now a fan, but she's a fan because, because I'm a fan. And
Yeah.
she legit likes it, but she didn't watch Deep Space Nine or, the original series. You know, until she met me. Now she's seen every episode. So,
Right.
and most of my coworkers, I mentioned Star Trek, they don't know what I'm talking about. They're like,
Well, I mean, what do you think I made my channel for? So I get to scream about Star Trek to all of you because nobody else in my life wants to talk about it. So
yeah, I bought the Star Trek Seen It game. I've never played. I've never played it. I don't have anyone I can play it with. Who am I going to play this with?
Right, exactly.
Anytime I show it to a friend, they're like, "Well, that's not fair. You would beat the crap out of me." I don't. It's
I mean, it's right. It's true though, but yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to take it to Dragon Con someday or something. Yeah,
that's right.
People, you ever go there? You ever go to Dragon Con?
I have not been to Dragon Con yet. No, not yet.
You should go. It's a good time. They have a good truck there. So
yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Let's, if you don't mind joining me, let's both give the audience the sarcastic Vulcan salute. So, thanks everyone. Check him out. Ketwolski channel down below, and everybody those pajamas.
Keep wearing those pajamas with the plastic feet. Keep wearing those pajamas. Tell everyone you meet. Keep wearing those pajamas with the back door flap. Keep wearing those pajamas. Don't open it, it's a trap. Oh no, it's a trap. Some people call them PJs, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander adamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now we're having fun. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now the song is done.